Pardon the interruption, but I'm Michael Wilbon. Tony, our guest today joins us from Brazil. What would you be doing right now if you were in Brazil?
Tony Kornheiser, for starters, I'd be talking to someone way hotter than you.
Yeah, make that a double, baby.
Yeah.
Make that a double. You would not be in my screen.
Those people in Brazil, they tend not to wear nearly as much as they wear in other places around the world.
Yeah, well, no matter what they're wearing, they look good.
They really do. Sadly for me, you got it. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. We will get to our U.S. Open and World Cup preview extravaganzas in a moment. But we begin today with the amazing offensive display of the San Antonio Spurs in the first half last night. They shot 85% for the first quarter, 76% for the half. Curiously, they were led by Kawhi Leonard, who had been widely criticized for being a non-factor in the first two games. Head-to-head, Leonard outscored LeBron James 29-22. So, Wilbon, was this more about Leonard and the Spurs hitting everything, or a poor effort by the Miami Heat?
Well, Tony, you know, this is what we do now. We look to find blame first with the losing team or the losing competitor. That's just the culture we live in.
Right.
And, you know, I heard Eric Spoelstra say last night, I was in the group that he told. You know, he talked about more effort when they got it cut to 7. All that's fine. But, you know, this is an athletic contest. And in this particular athletic contest last night, San Antonio was better. Kawhi Leonard got tired of sitting around for 3 days hearing how he wasn't the player that he was last year, just like LeBron James got tired of sitting around to game one hearing what he wasn't. People respond. Kawhi Leonard had the game of his life, going 10 for 13. Danny Green was also great, going 7 for 8. Look, the Spurs are capable of this. Not necessarily 76% again, but they can have a great game once in the series. They had one, and they were better.
Yeah, I mean, everything they threw up went in. I mean, the emblematic of that was Ginobili's shot at the end of the first half, hit the front rim, hit the backboard, hit the front rim, went in every layup. I thought Miami tried to play defense. I really do. I think they just got beat. And personally, I get to a point where people from losing teams say, we got out of our rhythm, and they say, you know, we didn't stick to our game plan. They said we didn't trust each other. This is nonsense. You got beat.
It is.
You got beat. This is a very simple series. The Miami Heat needs LeBron James to be great. He was not great last night. Kawhi Leonard was great last night. As you say, Danny Green. I mean, when you look at the roster of that team, you don't expect Leonard and Danny Green to beat you like that. And they were great.
Well, Tony, they beat them like that 3 times last year. Look, we know what this series is. It's a rematch. Last year, they went San Antonio, Miami. San Antonio, Miami. It went 1-1-1-1-1 until finally Miami won 2 straight games. That's what's happening now.
What I'm getting at is when Miami holds press conferences and blames themselves, they shot over 50%.
Tony,
they had 48% from 3. Normally, they win that game.
Miami played pretty darn well last night.
They were fine.
They're going to play better tomorrow night, and the series is going to be 2-2.
Yes.
That's what this series is. And so the blame game and all this angst and hand-wringing at the end is just what they do. It's what Miami will do now to get themselves in a better place tomorrow.
All losing teams do this. All losing teams say we got out of our rhythm.
They do.
What does that mean?
Because of World Cup, we won't be on when Spurs Heat is decided. So let's look ahead and forecast a little bit, Tony. Either way, the NBA will have a multiple-time champ facing immediate issues, roster issues, about even being intact come November. What with Miami having 3 potential free agents and rumors that Pop and Duncan might retire if victorious. So, Tony, would the NBA benefit more from a Spurs win or a Heat win?
Yeah, let me say categorically that the Spurs are a straw man in this. It doesn't matter what the attention is not on. The attention is only on the Miami Heat. And so the question becomes, is it good for the league if the Miami Heat wins or the Miami Heat loses? And it is better for the league if the Miami Heat loses. Because a lot of people don't like the Miami Heat. A lot of people don't like LeBron James. And if Miami loses, then LeBron James is going to look to go someplace else. And that is going to be the overriding question in the league. The San Antonio Spurs are a wonderful team, but they don't move the needle. Miami does.
Well, Tony, San Antonio's a wonderful team, and the thing is, they're at the end. Yeah. They're at the end of their run simply because of age. Because Duncan and Pop, there's this rumor out there, don't know how true it is, but Ginobili, Parker's not old, but he's got a lot of mileage on him. And so these guys are not going to be together forever. They're at the end of their run or close to it no matter what, win or lose. Miami could be in the middle of a run, all right, if LeBron stays. And, Tony, I don't think LeBron James is going to bet on somebody else over Pat Riley in terms of being able to keep a team together. The newest rumor is that Carmelo Anthony could join Miami, and they could all play for about, I don't know, $13, $14 million a year and keep it together. I don't know whether that would be good for the league or not. It would be good for chatter in the offseason, certainly, Tone. But Miami is where the action starts in the league now.
Exactly. The answer to this question is, as good as San Antonio may have been and may be now, nobody cares about them. Everybody cares passionately about Miami because of the lightning rod that is LeBron James. And if he were to leave, that's the only game in town. Where is he going next? And he's not going to leave. If they win, he's not going to leave.
I can't see him leaving either way, Tone.
But the chances are better that he will leave if they lose.
Yeah.
So the answer to the question is it's better for the NBA if Miami loses.
Now, you know what? For all the same reasons that you said that, I would say better if San Antonio wins. Look at the intrigue over Miami if they have to possibly retool.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. But the focal point is Miami.
Focal point
Thank you.
Miami.
Donald Sterling's most recent explosion is contained in a letter released yesterday. In it, Sterling calls the NBA, quote, despicable monsters, unquote, who are exacting, quote, a reign of terror, unquote. And he accuses them of trying to take away his fundamental American rights by forcing him to sell his team because of an illegally taped private conversation. Wilbon, why do you think Sterling wrote this letter? Do you think he truly believes he can get public opinion on his side?
Tony, look, as much as I find loathsome so much of what Donald Sterling has done, and particularly in the last month or so, I still have to be sensitive about, the way we look at him because, Tony, no matter how we get around, we can't get around it. There are at least 2 doctors that feel that through examination that Donald Sterling has Alzheimer's. We're talking about dementia. We're talking about senility. We're talking about a man sort of howling at the moon at this point as he continues on publicly. It ought to be embarrassing to some degree, but perhaps it isn't. But I don't know why he wrote the letter. Can he get public sentiment on his side at this point? No. By and large, he can't because of things like this letter where you look at him and just go, oh, my God, he is out of his element now. Somebody needs to take him away and shush him up.
I don't have any quarrel with the things that you've said. I mean, I'd like to see documentation that he has dementia because I'm not sure that that's true. People will say that about him to diminish what he's doing. But a courtroom is a place that you don't want to go if you're the NBA. You do not want this to happen. You do not want Donald Sterling to depose your owners. You do not want him to accuse you of gender discrimination and personal malfeasance among ownership. You don't want that to happen. So if you're the NBA right now, you have to consider first and foremost, this is a business that you have to protect, and you have to find out exactly what he wants. You have to go to him. What do you want? Now, I don't know. If he wants courtside seats, I don't know that they can go for that because the symbolism of that will really irritate the players. But if he wants to sit in a box somewhere, what is the big deal about this? You've got to get this done.
Tony, I got to say this. Donald Sterling is no longer a threat to anyone. He's not a threat to the league.
But a court case could be.
Tony, he has no credibility. We don't know. And a couple of leading neurologists in Los Angeles, if we are to believe his wife, say he has Alzheimer's.
Oh, like
he's a
she's
threat,
objective?
Tony, he's a threat
she's getting
to
$2 billion.
No one at this point
he is
for
a
himself.
Threat. He's a threat to the structure of the NBA because he's a symbol of hatred for the players.
It's too late for him.
You got to take the temperature of the players, Mike. You have to do this.
He's just a guy howling at the moon.
I don't think. Well, if he gets into a courtroom and he howls, he's not just howling at the moon.
Okay. Believe it or not, sandwiched between the NBA Finals and World Cup is the U.S. Open, with no Tiger Woods and no real favorite going into tomorrow's first round at Pinehurst. Golf is in such a weird place right now. Among the prominent players worldwide who, among them, Tony, could even give the game the biggest boost by winning.
You know, I think that my answer could be shaped by age and history, and so I'm partial to Phil Mickelson because the tour has been dominated this year by people who've won multiple times like Jordan Reed and Jimmy Walker, nobody's ever heard of him, Matt Jones, Russell Henley, guys like that won a tournament here or there. Stars haven't won. He's a star. He's the second biggest star in golf, and he's the biggest active star. Phil, he's come in second 6 times in this thing, including once at Pinehurst. He's being investigated by the FBI and the SEC. I mean, I think that all of that sort of conspires that would become a popular victory more than anyone else. What do you think?
Tony, I want to see Phil win. I am rooting for Phil Mickelson. I'm not going to lie about this. I'm rooting for Phil to win. And it'd be a big deal. But you know what? Phil is San Antonio, by your reasoning. Phil's at the end of the line in terms of the number of years that he left.
Okay, then who's Miami? Win. Who's Miami for you?
I don't think there is. I'm not buying the Jordan Spieth argument as much. I guess it's Bubba. I mean, Bubba's as close as we get, right? I mean, Bubba's been out there a couple of times. People know who Bubba is. I don't know that Bubba has the appeal of, say, the collective Miami. I don't know if there's anybody out there with that.
Bubba is intriguing in this regard. He bombs the ball. I mean, it's all or nothing when he hits the ball.
Do people care about that like they used to?
Oh, well, because if he wins, then he's got 2 in a row, and there's actually the possibility of a slam, which hasn't happened, and he becomes an instantaneous huge star. He's an American winning the United States Open. I think there was a period of time when Rory was the next LeBron James. But it seems the momentum for that has already drifted off.
Yep. I agree with you, but you know what, Tony? You know what would be great? A duel between Rory and Jordan Spieth. How about that?
Well,
I think you've got to get some guys you can look to for the next 8 to 10 years in the mix with a Phil.
The problem with Rory is on second rounds he's bad, and the problem with Spieth so far in big tournaments is on final rounds he's
Final
bad.
rounds, yeah.
If he were to break through, people would like that at the U.S. Open.
But we're old people rooting for Phil. Is that right?
Geezer golf, baby.
Yes, that's right.
Let's take a break, but coming up, why does Jurgen Klinsmann, your boy, keep saying that the U.S. cannot win the World Cup?
I don't know. Somebody tell me why he's still saying it. And later, was this throw the play of the year in Major League Baseball?
That's a really good throw.
It's a throw. That's a throw.
That's a really good throw.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The Miami Heat have won the 2013 NBA title.
Major League Baseball.
The Boston Red Sox have won the World Series.
The full championship series.
The tide has risen again. The 3rd time in 4 years.
You're home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
The World Cup kicks off, you see what I did there? Tomorrow in Brazil, which is where we find the man following Team USA for this here network, Jeremy Schaap, who joins us now. Jeremy, let us begin with this. Jurgen Klinsmann said again today that it is not realistic to expect the United States to win the World Cup. Why do you think he keeps saying this?
Well, Tony, I think he actually said it today because he was specifically asked about the comments that he made to the New York Times Magazine, which were published just the other day, which caused somewhat of a stir. Clearly, he also wanted to mess with Wilbon a little bit. But I think it's just, it really is a cultural thing. There's American positivism, which we know so well, and there is European cynicism and negativism, if you will. And I think he's being realistic. Perhaps he's also tamping down expectations, which aren't very high to begin with. But I happen to believe that he's also saying in the context of this, there is no good reason to believe the U.S. will win the World Cup, rather than saying definitively, of course, that we can't win it.
I won't even get into how fraudulent I think that is, but let's just move ahead to Klinsmann scouting himself. Ghana beat South Korea 4-0 the other day, Jeremy. What in the world might Coach Klinsmann have taken away from that little match?
Well, not too much. I wouldn't really read that much into it. I mean, remember, Ghana is a very talented team. It has some remarkably skilled players. Everybody knows that. Ghana has eliminated the U.S. in each of the last 2 World Cups. This is a formidable opponent. Jurgen Klinsmann didn't need to be reminded of that. And I was talking to Michael Bradley about the Ghana game today, and he was saying, look, you can't read too much into these things. Coaches are experimenting in these games. They're trying out different formations. It really isn't so much a dress rehearsal for an opening match in the World Cup as it is a last chance to experiment. So I wouldn't take too much from that result positively or negatively, and I don't think Jurgen Klinsmann does either.
Wilbon using nil and match. Duly noted, Wilbon. Very well played. Jeremy, what would be a good tournament result for Klinsmann? What exactly?
Well, there's no doubt if the U.S. gets out of this group, which is arguably the toughest group in this World Cup, out of the 8 groups of 4 teams each, if the U.S. finds a way out with Portugal and Germany and Ghana in there as well, that is a success. The U.S. never gets out of the group in consecutive World Cups. It hasn't happened since the U.S. returned to the World Cup in 1990 for the first time in 40 years. The pattern is one good World Cup, one bad World Cup, one disastrous World Cup, one pretty good World Cup. If the U.S. were for the second consecutive World Cup tournament to get out, particularly in this group, a much tougher group than it had in South Africa when it was Algeria, Slovenia, and England, that would be a success in and of itself. I think most people would agree.
Well, Jeremy, conversely, I mean, is there a result that will bring, I don't know, international or at least national criticism from somebody other than me for Coach Klinsmann, given what they're facing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, although the expectation on the part of most experts is that the U.S. does not advance, that 2 other teams from this group get out. If the U.S. bombs entirely, if the U.S. loses by several goals in each game, if the U.S. fails to score in this tournament, which some people are predicting is a real possibility, then Klinsmann, I think, really is in danger. I mean, yes, he has a 4-year extension. There is some security there. But if the U.S. has a terrible tournament, like the tournament it had, say, in 1998 in France, when it finished last of all 32 teams in the tournament, it won't make a difference that he has a guaranteed contract. They would have to get rid of him if it's that kind of result, Mike.
Jeremy, to follow up on that, what is the international expectation of this U.S. side?
I think most people would say the U.S. is not expected to get out of the group. That's clear. But I don't think it would be considered a huge upset. I thought Landon Donovan said something very interesting along the way since the draw back in December. He said, look, part of the reason this is the group of death is that the United States is in it. And that's true. And Jurgen Klinsmann talked about that today a little bit. You know, the rest of the world, maybe fears isn't the operative term to use when it thinks about the U.S., but there is trepidation, and there is the knowledge that the U.S. has come up with some very big results in big moments in the World Cup over the years, has outplayed some of the world's great powers, has nearly defeated and defeated some of the world's great powers over the last 2 decades in the World Cup. So while most people expect it to be Germany and Portugal or Germany and Ghana, and relatively few expect the U.S. to get out, if it were to do so, I would say that qualifies as only a minor upset.
Jeremy, I know that you claim to be in Sao Paulo, but it really looks like you're at a suburban soccer field in Connecticut. Can you tell us the truth, please?
Look, they do miraculous things now with green screens, Tony, as you well know. We built in this delay to make it appear that I am south of the equator. Trust me, you know, the DEET I'm spraying on myself to prevent dengue fever and yellow fever and mosquito, and malaria, that's very real, Tony. It's not a joking matter.
It may not be to you, but we're laughing. Thank you so much for joining us, Jeremy.
Appreciate it.
We're taking a break. When we come back, a PTI tribute to the most popular character on Game of Thrones.
And a must-win game for your New York Rangers, Tony.
Did you call the United States soccer team a side? Did you actually do that?
No,
Programming note, we are off for the next 2.5 weeks. We are bumped by the World Cup. And on July 1st, we'll be back to do what we do best, talk international soccer. And other things. So let's get happy, people.
Let's do
Happy
it.
45th birthday, Peter Dinklage. I don't watch Game of Thrones, but almost everyone at PTI does, and they tell me that Dinklage is their favorite character in the show. I saw him in The Station Agent. I liked him. Wilbon, we've got time off. Are you tempted to binge watch Game of Thrones?
No. Tony, I'm sure Game of Thrones is great. I'm going to play golf, and I'm going to sleep. That's it. Anything that gets in the way of that, I'm going to be very angry.
Those
Sound
are
like you.
very good choices. Happy anniversary, Los Angeles Kings. On this day 2 years ago, the Kings won their first ever Stanley Cup, beating the New Jersey Devils 6-1 in Game 6. They're up 3-0 on the Rangers. Game 4 is tonight. It's hard to see this series going past 5 if it gets there. Wilbon, you think the Kings close it out in the Garden tonight?
Yeah, Tony, I think so. The Kings are that good. The Western Conference has been so much better than the Eastern Conference all season. The Kings are just steamrolling here. Sorry to see your Rangers are going to get swept.
Happy trails, Howie Kendrick. Kendrick was trying to score in a 1-1 game in the 8th inning. Imagine his surprise when even after Cespedes bobbled the ball, kicked it to the wall, he came up throwing an utterly perfect strike that nailed Kendrick at the plate. It is not the laser line drive that Yasiel Puig throws, but the arc of it is perfect.
Yeah, Puig was more like Clemente. That throw, Tony, reminds me more of Evans and when he was on Boston, even though those are coming out of right field mostly. Great.
Time to find out where we messed up, Howie.
I'm begging you people, the next 2.5 weeks, just watch Game of Thrones. Go on the binge. It's the best thing you can do. Last week's episode was a masterpiece. All night. Technically, so first quarter, Spurs shot 86.7%.
I got that from an Adonde piece. Come on.
Put Adonde under the bus.
Big finish. Georgia Tech coach Paul Johnson told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution he's in favor of scrapping signing day. Are you?
Amen. Bo Pelini pushing this as well. Signing day is wherever you are when a kid signs on the dotted line. That's it. Browns coach Mike Pettin said yesterday he's not concerned about Johnny Football's off-the-field life. Your thoughts?
He's lying. Serge Ibaka's little brother Igor will play basketball at Oklahoma State. Is he an NBA prospect?
Well, he knows that 14-10 in JUCO, 6'8" center, kind of a tweener. We'll see. Masahiro Tanaka going for his major league tying 10th win of the season. Will he get it?
Mariners do well against the Yankees. I'm going to say no. Last one, the Cardinals have recorded 3 straight shutouts. Do I hear 4?
At the Rays, who are 27th in runs scored and been shut out 3 straight games, Tony. Very possible. I think so.
We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. We're off until July 1st, knuckleheads. Still, check out the PTI podcast on iTunes.
So,
the World Cup.